For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm-up from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined here in segment number 1 by Curtis Rogers. I did have to pre-record this a little bit ahead of time, so I'm not going to be able to get you guys a recap of what we saw on the Tuesday card. Don't worry, I'll be summing up all of those games tomorrow, so we're going to get you guys all covered there, but do want to talk with Curtis about what we are all currently seeing out there in the AL West, what the Seattle Mariners have been able to provide, and so much more. He does such a great job as their pre- and post-game host, so we're going to be chatting with that about him, and it didn't help my cause in terms of trying to do the recap that we didn't have a single day game on Tuesday for the second straight day, so thanks for nothing there. But then in the final segment, we're going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters M, they me does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we do have everything brought to you by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they make sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year, because this is an account that you're able to utilize for all of your gambling related transactions. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, you utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for a dollar match on your first deposit of up to $25. Now I'll chat with our man, Curtis Rogers. He does such a great job over with the Seattle Mariners. And Curtis, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, thanks for having me on. Always happy to come on and talk some ball with you. And we're at the quarter point of the baseball season. Lots to get to, especially in the American League with how wide open everything is. Fun quarter point to the first half of the season here. We're ready to go.
Yes, we certainly are, and it's been a good quarter mark of the season for the Seattle Mariners thus far. Obviously, Monday was not necessarily the world's greatest when it came to the Seattle Mariners, but past that, things have been pretty rock solid. And just how have you evaluated this Mariners season? One where first 2-3 weeks it felt like there were some concerns, but over the last month or so, things have really gotten good for them.
Yeah, the offense has been the story of the first quarter for the Mariners. It's been an offense that I don't think a lot of people, myself included, gladly lump myself in that category, did not see them really capable of putting up these kinds of numbers. And obviously contributions like Cal Raleigh and Jorge Polanco have been the big story of their season. But I mean, heck, they've gotten good contributions from little known guys like Leo Rivas, other guys in that lineup. Heck, ever since picking up Leody Taveras about a week or so ago, he's had a few big knocks for them. Rowdy Tellez has started to hit the ball a lot better. So it's been a much more well-rounded effort offensively. And it's weird. Everything we thought we knew about this Mariners team coming into the season, it was a team built on starting pitching and very little offense. It is completely flipped. The starting pitching has not been there this season, and the offense has. And so you kind of wonder, at what point do the Mariners just kind of accept that this is their identity for the 2025 season? Obviously, you'll get George Kirby back probably within the next week and a half. You'll probably get Logan Gilbert back at some point here in the season's first half. So that's encouraging, but also discouraging is what Bryce Miller has turned in for this starting rotation. He's complained about just not feeling like himself over his last few starts. So mixed bag for sure, but like you said, the results being what they are atop the American League West right now, I don't know if many people can complain about where the Mariners are standing-wise.
And it's such an interesting American League West as well, because we've seen the Sacramento, Oakland, Las Vegas A's, whatever you want to call them, be a little bit up and down this year. For the Rangers, they've been hovering right around 500, but that offense has not gotten going whatsoever. The Los Angeles Angels are the Los Angeles Angels. They lost cause at this point, so there's been that. But what have you made out of the entire division as a whole? Because it just feels like a very much mixed bag with the Astros hovering right around 500 too.
Right. I think Houston is a team that you can't ignore just based off of their long track record, how they have won so many division titles, so many American League titles over the last decade or so. But right now, they just don't feel like the Houstons of old. And I think the absence of Yordan Alvarez is doing a lot to that, influencing a lot of that. Also, their pitching staff just doesn't have the number of horses that they've had routinely over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, Hunter Brown has been very special this season for them, but beyond that, they just don't have the same kind of guys. I mean, Lance McCullers is back, but as we know, he hasn't thrown at the major league level since 2022. He's been gone for 2 seasons, and now he's back. So you don't know what you're going to get out of him going forward. Rangers offensively have been just anemic right now, just not putting up the runs. I think Marcus Semien, his season has been highly disappointing. Jock Peterson, one of the worst free agent signings so far, hitting, I don't know if he's even hitting his weight at this point. You've got just a really weird grouping of teams in the American League West, and I think right now the A's are probably playing the best ball of that group that's below the Mariners right now. I know they gave the Mariners fits in that 3-game series that the Mariners ultimately won in Sacramento, but all 3 games could have gone the A's way. Jacob Wilson, I mean, boy, what a throwback he is, hitting about 350, not striking out at all.
Not walking either.
Exactly. No, he's not walking either. Kind of the American League version of Luis Arias in a way. He's been just a really fun player to watch. Definitely a throwback, and that offense can put up runs. Now, their pitching staff gives up quite a bit of run, too, especially playing that bandbox in Sacramento they call Sutter Health Field. But I think the A's are definitely a team worth keeping an eye on for sure, especially as they go out on the road. I think you'll get a better read on what that team is. Definitely in need of more starting pitching for sure. But right now, I think the A's are definitely a solid number 2 behind the Mariners, and everybody else kind of picking up the rear in the American League West.
Yeah, and the entire American League as a whole I find to be very interesting as well. It's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show is Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, because right now when I take a look at the landscape of the American League, the Detroit Tigers own the best record out there, and they have been quite impressive. I don't know if I can fully buy into them for a full 162, though. Mm-hmm. The New York Yankees, they've had the most star power. They're obviously leading the AL East, but in that entire AL East, it just feels like teams not named the Yankees have left something to be desired. And then in the Central, the Cleveland Guardians are somehow, someway 24-17, despite the fact that their bullpen has fallen off a cliff. The Royals, they pretty much have the Texas Rangers syndrome, but they're finding a way to get shutout wins. And it just feels like teams not named the Yankees, the Tigers, and the Seattle Mariners just can't score out there in the American League right now.
Yeah, and it feels like every team, even with those 3 teams you mentioned, has significant warts, has significant issues where it's like, man, I don't know how they're able to run out a winning record with what we've talked about, all these teams. For the Tigers, it's kind of like offensively beyond Riley Green. And look, a bounce-back season from Javi Baez. I don't think anybody expected that, because Baez has been one of the worst bats in baseball over the last 3 or 4 seasons. So him giving them any kind of positive production has been pretty incredible this season for the Tigers. But, I mean, in the American League right now, you mentioned the division leaders, sort of the teams in that second tier. I mean, look, Boston has all the talent in the world, but will Rafi Devers be there by the end of the season? Is he going to talk his way out of Boston based off of him not wanting to play first base? It reminds me of the scene in Moneyball where Brad Pitt is saying, you've never played first base. It's not that hard to learn first base. And then Rafi Devers claps back. It's incredibly hard. That's what I get out of that whole situation in Boston. Can they put that behind themselves and go forward? Because I think that team has a lot of talent on it for sure. Duran, Bregman. I know Tristan Casas the rest of the season, but I mean, it's not like, he was doing much of anything before that. Trevor Story is back. They're kind of a confusing team right now because they have definitely not played to the sum of their parts to start this season. I think I look at them as probably the best of that second-tier teams in the American League. And in the AL Central, you mentioned Cleveland. Boy, Emmanuel Clase, the wheels have fallen off that experience. That has been a brutal watch to start this season. Kansas City, they have got good rotation pieces, but, again, outside of Bobby Witt Jr., kind of lacking in star power. But I just look at the American League right now, Greg, and you're right. There's just no elite team at the moment. And I don't know if there's going to be one that really separates itself here over the next, couple of months before the trade deadline.
No doubt about it. And there are some teams that have just really fallen back at the pack as well, because there are some teams like the Blue Jays starting out 20-20. That's honestly not a bad story. The Guardians and the Royals staying above 500 is great, but what do we make of the Baltimore Orioles, who they entered into Monday with the second worst win percentage in the American League behind the Chicago White Sox? And that, I think, is one of the most stunning stories of the year, and one that has went way under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, the Orioles, I think it boils down to their offseason where they did just about nothing. They let their best pitcher go in free agency in Corbin Burns and didn't really do anything to replace him. They did sign Charlie Morton and whatnot, but, man, they have been outscored by a ton this year. And given the trajectory of what they had been doing, they won 100 games 2 years ago. They won 90-plus last year. It felt like this team was just going to continue that momentum. But right now, they were 10 games under 500 at one point over the weekend. It has just been so weird to see. Jackson Holliday, for as many struggles as he had a year ago, he's their best hitter at the moment in terms of batting average at 264 or 336 on base. To me, I think Adley Rutschman has been a big issue for them that hasn't been talked about enough. Last season, he ended the season on a very cold slump in the season second half, and that has carried over here to start the year. Just 4 home runs, just hitting 203 with a 636 OPS. That is not what you want out of your franchise catcher. Ryan O'Hearn has been, phenomenal for them at first base. He has been just really, really good for them. Kind of wonder, hey, is that a guy that potentially could be a trade candidate if the Orioles were to fall out of this thing? But, yeah, they didn't do anything in the offseason, so you're not going to really get a lot better unless you expect the young players that you have to take a step forward. But, boy, right now, I mean, counting on young players like that, that's a big risk that the Orioles clearly, I don't think they did enough to kind of supplement those guys, because right now they're kind of leaving them out to dry.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And that's something that I'm a little bit surprised that we're not talking more about, because that has been awful for them thus far this season. And what other surprises have you taken from the first, we're going to call it 6.5 or so weeks of the season? Because no doubt, I think that that's one of them that we need to be talking about. And additionally, we got a lot of things in the National League that I know you follow a little bit of everything, and just the entire National League and the balance of power out there has been really fun to take a look at too.
It has. And how about the St. Louis Cardinals out of nowhere winning 9 straight? That is a team that I think a lot of people had kind of left for dead, especially after their 9-14 start, 10-15 start. It did not look like this team was going to really factor into anything in the National League Central, but good to see them get back into things. They've been a really fun team to watch here over the last couple of weeks. That's a team that I don't know how real it is. Any team can kind of go on a heater here and win 8, 9, 10 in a row, but to see the contributions that they've got, Brendan Donovan has been phenomenal for them. Wilson Contreras has been really rock solid behind the plate. Lars Nootbaar, one of the great names in all of baseball, he's been rock steady for them. I would just really think that this Cardinals team right now, probably not getting enough attention. Eric Fetty, I thought that was a really shrewd pickup by them, who had a really good year last year for the White Sox. He had a really good start just a couple of days ago. I believe he pitched a complete game shutout. Sonny Gray has been everything that they could hope he would be. I think this Cardinals team definitely worth keeping an eye on for sure, especially in that National League Central, as you and I have talked about a lot heading into this season and also to start the season. It is up for the taking. I know the Cubs have lived up to expectation this season, but the Cardinals right there nipping at their heels.
Yep, they certainly are. That entire NL Central is going to be a lot of fun to be able to say for the Milwaukee Brewers to get their bullpen act together, because they were so good last year there, and they have not been thus far this season, but a man that has been rock solid all season long, a man that is doing a great job doing all the Seattle Mariners pre- and post-game hosting duties and so much more. That'd be you, Curtis. Let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, we've got another edition of Extra Innings coming up this week on Thursday, Mariners off day, so we hit the air for 2 hours. You can download the podcast, seattlesports.com, or on the Seattle Sports app, and also make sure you're following Greg on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter as well, at A Kid from Kent. Instagram as well. That's where you can find all sorts of baseball musings of mine. And Greg, always appreciate hopping on with you, and I look forward to our next chat.
Absolutely. And our good friend Curtis, he's doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. And every time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks, Curtis, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Curtis Rogers. He does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports. He is the pre- and post-game host for the Seattle Mariners. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Curtis for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Now, we've got two games that were rained out on Tuesday, so that means that we're going to have a pair of double dips between the Phillies and the Cardinals and the Twins and the Orioles. Now, as of right now, I am assuming that the pitching matchups that we got on Tuesday we're also going to be getting on Wednesday for those games, but there might be some shuffling around. You see it all the time where the guy that was supposed to go on Tuesday is now going to be going in like game one on Wednesday or something like that. But that said, how about if we do get things started with one of those doubleheaders? 901, 902 on the betting board. As of right now, that original game was supposed to be Aaron Nola against Eric Fetty Wap, and then the game that got rained out at Sonny Gray versus Ace Luzardo. So we're going to go through first things first, the expected game that we were supposed to get between Aaron Nola and Eric Fetty, and as of right now, Nola and the Philadelphia Phillies are minus 149 to minus 162 favorites, and between plus 135 to plus 140 is that number on St. Louis with a total of 8.5. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and with regards to the Cardinals, I need at least a plus 159 to be able to take a shot on them. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Philadelphia Phillies, you should be able to get north of a plus 125. If I could get a plus 125 or higher, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that run line. Things got a little bit wonky with this game being taken off the board so early, but I would think that you should be able to get a plus 125 or higher. And for Eric Fetty, he's a guy that I'm looking to target a little bit more when he's away from home. Ever since the beginning of the 2024 campaign, has had an ERA that has been approaching right around about a 4.5 when he has been away from home. And for Eric Fetty, he's coming off of a really nice start against the Washington Nationals where he was able to complete the game, but prior to that had given up a combined 10 runs in his last two starts, and overall it's a 3.86 ERA, but a 4.12 fielding dependent, getting only about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he is allowing about 4 walks per 9 innings, so that's been quite a bit of an issue. And on the flip side, you do have a guy in Aaron Nola who I think that he's doing for some positivity. Aaron Nola has not been great this far this season, do not get me wrong, but he's still able to get plenty of swings and misses. Overall this season, he's been posting up about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, is giving up the 3 walks per 9. What has been the main issue for him has been the hard contact, giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. He's going up against Cardinals lineup that now has Ron Herrera back in the fold, and that is absolutely massive for them because he was one of their top home run hitters before he went on the injured list. He's still been able to give the team 5+ home runs thus far this season. You're noticing Wilson Contreras doing a nice job of being able to supply 6 home runs. He had a really rough start to the season. Now he's starting to move the line, giving you 345 on base. Lars Nootbaar, 6 home runs of his own. .372 with regards to his on-base percentage. Brandon Donovan is hitting for above a 300. So you've got a team that's playing some really good station-to-station baseball, which is why they've got this 8-plus game winning streak going on right now. Now with the Cardinals, you do have a little bit of trepidation with the bullpen, but it is a bit superior to that of the Philadelphia Phillies, because for the Philadelphia Phillies, you've had Matt Strahm along with Jose Alvarado be rock solid, but Orion Kirkering is posting up north of a 4.5 ERA. Tanner Banks, guys like this have not necessarily been too trustworthy. Meanwhile, I do really like the stuff of Ryan Elsley. He's been able to be a rock solid closer for the team, and then Kyle Leahy has been able to supply a sub 125 ERA. But past that, Phil Matone has given you about a 3.3 ERA. You've had John King be very, very suspect for the team. Gordon Gassifo is now seeing some innings, so that's a bit rough as well. So both of these teams have less than trustworthy bullpens, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber is just on a tear right now. This guy has been able to supply you with a 400 on base this season with 14 home runs, and additionally, you've been having this team once again be one that, much like the Cardinals, they're not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest amount of power, saying Schwarber is. You've got 7 home runs out of Bryce Harper, really nobody else outside those two guys with the 5 home runs, but you're noticing these guys are starting to be able to get on base. Alec Boehm, after a rough start to the season, he's been a bit better. You've had Yohan Rojas at the bottom of the fold at a 275, Nick Castellanos is hitting a 280, and Trey Turner is giving you a 300 average as well. So assuming that we do once again get for one of these matchups, Nola versus Fetty plus 125 or higher, we'll look at that Phillies run line. I would need at least plus 160 to take a shot on the Cardinals, and I did set my total at 8.9, so at that 8.5, I'll be looking at that total over. And then in the Sonny Gray versus Ace Luis Luzardo start, assuming we still get that, I would be looking at, because when this game went off the board, you were having the Phillies at about a minus 142 to a minus 145. If we can get a minus 144 better, so we'll be looking at the Phillies on the money line. Ace Luis Luzardo posting up 9.5 strikeouts, about 2 walks per 9 innings. ERA and Philly Independent both below a 225. And for Sonny Gray, since he signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, he does have an ERA that is north of a 4.5 on the road, so it's been a little bit suspect there. But all in all, it's still been a relatively solid pitcher for Sonny Gray. He's still doing a solid job of not giving up a lot of walks and everything like that. Does have to go up against this very good Philadelphia Phillies lineup, but I did set my total at 7.8 when this went off the board. It was an 8, so I'd be looking at the under there, with Gray still getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings with about 1.2 home runs per 9. So we'll be looking at in Gray versus Luzardo in 8 or higher to the under, so be mindful there. And if you do see a little bit of a flipperoonie with regards to some of these starters as well, with Sonny Gray, I would value him probably about 25 cents better than Eric Fetty, so that's why I'd be looking at this, and Ace Luis Luzardo about 20 cents better than Aaron Nola. So hopefully I kept that straight for you guys. As we go to 903 and 904 on the betting board, it is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they're going to be hitting the road. They're facing off against the San Francisco Giants. Jordan Nix is on the bump for the Giants, and Eduardo Rodriguez goes for the Snakes. The total on this game is 8 with the over and under, both at minus 110, and this is pretty much a pick'em game. Diamondbacks are anywhere between a minus 105 to a minus 113, anywhere between a minus 105 to a minus 110 is that number on San Francisco. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, I did set them at a plus 113, so I'm going to be willing to go up to a minus 112 on the Giants. Both of these starters have been very suspect, so I'm going to be looking at the over in this spot. You've got yourself a San Francisco Giants team that has been really doing a nice job behind Jordan Nix with regards to the bullpen. The Giants entered into Monday with the number 1 bullpen in terms of ERA in the big leagues, also into Tuesday as well. They've been able to supply with a 2.48 ERA, as you've had a lot of long guys be able to come up big for this team. Hayden Birdsong has been rock solid. You might need the long guys in this game, because Jordan Nix, he's right now providing a 5.82 ERA. Now, the fielding depends a 3.12 because he's not allowing a lot of home runs, just 0.4 home runs per 9 innings, but that said, he's got a whip of a 1.408 because he's giving up a lot of general contact. He's giving up north of 3 walks per 9 innings. He's only getting about 8 or so strikeouts per 9 innings as well. Eduardo Rodriguez, meanwhile, he's got a 6.86 ERA. He's allowed at least 4 runs in each of his last 4 starts, 1.8 home runs, and 3.3 walks per 9 innings, and he just is not backed up by the same bullpen, especially with A.J. Puck being on the injured list. The Diamondbacks are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that they've had a few guys like a Jalen Beeks, Shelby Miller be able to step up, give you a sub-3 ERA, so that's been a little bit suspect. 25th in the big leagues with a 4.95 ERA. Justin Martinez has been dealing with an injury as well, so they've got a lot of understudies in there, and they're just not necessarily getting the job done, like a guy like a Juan Murillo, for example. Hard to have a lot of faith in him. Meanwhile, Tyler Rogers, Eric Miller, these are all good short guys for the San Francisco Giants, and Camilo Duvall just looks completely reborn this season. then for the San Francisco Giants, you've had a offense that has been, shall we say, a little bit up and down because you've got a trio of guys who have given you between 7 and 8 home runs. Eloy Ramos, Wilmer Flores, Matt Chapman. None of these three guys are necessarily hitting for the world's greatest amount of average, but do have Mikey Yastrzemski who's giving you about a 371 on base. And though Matt Chapman is only hitting at 219, he has been able to give you about a 352 with regards to out on base as well. And Eloy Ramos, I should be taken aback by that. 355 on base, 290 average. So he has been able to hit for quite a bit of average. Now you do have Lamont Wade Jr., Patrick Bailey. They just need to do more for you, along with Luis Matos, lying below the Bedell's line of a 200. But Jung-Ho Lee has been able to give you about a 285. Willie Adames has been a little bit rough this season. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you do have a few guys that you would like to see them move the line a little bit more because you've got Eugenio Suarez, who's been able to give you 12 plus home runs this season, but hitting just a 200. You have not really been able to get a lot out of some likes of a Tim Taywa, Lourdes Gurriel. They could give you a little bit more, but I mean, the overall power on this team is incredible. And Corbin Carroll, 13 home runs, already has a multi-home run game in the series, 355 on base. It's a Diamondbacks team that when you date it back to the beginning of the 2024 season, top 2 team in terms of runs per game. Pavin Smith has been able to give you north of a 400 on base. So I do think that you're going to be able to get quite a bit of value here with regards to this total over, as I think that the Giants are going to be able to get to Eduardo Rodriguez. The Diamondbacks, they should be able to get to Hicks, but that bullpen should be able to get the job done for the Giants. I set my total at 80.6, so I like the over, and for the Giants, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 112 on that money line. 9-5, 9-6 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates, at the road, they're facing off against the New York Mets. As Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his name for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you've got one Mr. Clay Holmes on the bump for the New York Mets. The Mets do find themselves between minus 250 to minus 258 favorites, and between plus 210 to a plus 227 as that number on the Buccos with a total of 8. The under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. And with the Pittsburgh Pirates, I would need at least a plus 247 to be able to take a shot on that money line if you're looking to lay a run half with the New York Mets. Right now on FanDuel, because they always post up the earliest of the run lines, I'm right now finding that at a minus 125, and I'd be willing to go up to a minus 125 on this run line. I set mine at a minus 127 for Clay Holmes. He has really done a nice job of being able to take that leap from being a reliever to being a starter, as he's done a tremendous job in terms of being able to get strikeouts. Now, the one fear that you do have with Clay Holmes is that the walks issues towards the beginning part of the season were there with him a little bit, but he's been able to tame those down a little bit more, and additionally, he is backed up by one of the best bullpens that you're going to find in the big leagues, as you've got a lot of long guys like Oscar Barzobin, Jose Buto, Max Chronic, where I'll give you a sub 3.3 ERA, and for Clay Holmes, 274 ERA, 262 fielding dependent, and he's been delivering a lot more length recently as well, with at least 6 innings pitched in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and has allowed 1 or 0 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And now he gets to go up against the Pittsburgh Pirates team that is currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They go into a Tuesday averaging 3.1 runs per contest. You've been able to get some good production out of Oneil Cruz. Oneil Cruz has been nice, as he's been able to do a nice job, be able to slug out 8 home runs, hitting for about a 340 in terms of his on base, but that said, he's currently out with back issues, which is why I had to downgrade the Pittsburgh Pirates even further. So that's not necessarily too tremendous. You have to figure that he's going to be out for the rest of the series, and outside of that, it's been a whole lot of nothing for this team, as Brian Reynolds has supplied the team with 5 home runs, and he and Cruz are the only guys with north of 3 home runs thus far this season. To the credit of Andrew McCutchen, give you about a 350 or so with regards to his on-base percentage. And when Joey Bart's been out there, because he's been a little bit banged up, 400 on base out of him as well. Isaiah Kerner-Falefa, it's about a 280 or so, but then when you get to the bottom of the fold, these guys like Andy Rodriguez, Jared Trollo, Alexander Canario, these are all guys are just giving you absolutely nothing whatsoever. Henry Davis has been a big giant flop for the team as well since he was taken with the number 1 overall pick. And for the New York Mets, you've had Juan Soto be able to fly 4+ home runs over the last 2 weeks. Already has 2 multi-home run games thus far this season, and Pete Alonso continues to give you 450 on base. He continues to give you 10+ home runs. He has been rock solid with Francisco Lindor. He's been able to do an amazing job. He's supplying now 9 home runs, and he's been able to give you about a 375 or so with regards to his on base. Though Brandon Nimmo's not hitting for a lot of average, 8 home runs out of him, and you haven't been able to get the power out of Luis Angel Acuna, but he's hitting a 280. For the Pirates, it's not been the world's worst bullpen, but David Bednar, he just continues to swoop the Bednar for the team. Colton Holderman has outlived up to his name. I actually like the pickup of Joey Wentz in the offseason. Some of these ancillary guys have actually been okay with regards to that Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen, but you just take a look at them overall, leaving something to be desired. 21st in terms of bullpen ERA. The New York Mets should be able to control this game, so at a minus 125 or better, I'm going to be willing to lay that run line. And did somebody told 7.8? Flat out don't think that the Pirates do their part with this total, even though Bailey Falter, well, he has been a little bit rough as well. As for Mr. Falter, this is just someone that does not get strikeouts strikeouts throughout his career, has been getting in the neighborhood about 6 to 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and thus far this season has been the world's worst pitcher. 4.36 ERA, 4.45 fielding dependent with about 2.7 walks, 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, so I think he does just enough to be able to keep this under. So I'm liking the under, and I do like the New York Mets on the run line. 9-7, 9-8 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves play host to the Washington Nationals. Mitchell Parker is on the bump for the Nats, and you've got Mr. Bryce Elder on the bump for Atlanta. -160 to -166 is your number on Atlanta. Anywhere between +140 to +145 is that number on Washington, with 8.5 being the total. Overs between -115 to a -120. The unders anywhere between even a -105. And for Atlanta, I set them at a -173. So I'm going to be looking at them in some form or capacity. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Atlanta Braves, by the way, you're going to be able to get a plus number on that. Right now, I'm seeing a +116. I'd be willing to take a +112 or higher on that. For Mitchell Parker, he was just doing for so much regression, and that is starting to hit home. As for Mitchell Parker, very much a pitcher contact guy, not getting a lot of strikeouts this year, and it's not like the command has necessarily been the world's greatest with him either. 5.2 strikeouts and 4.4 walks per 9 innings. To his credit, in 45 1/3 innings, he's only allowed 1 home run thus far this season. That's why he's got a 390 fielding independent, but he's not really doing the world's greatest job in terms of reducing on the contact. He's not getting a lot of swings and misses. He's been pretty wildly inaccurate, and for Bryce Elder, this is a guy that leaves a whole heck of a lot of something to be desired as well. For Mr. Elder, he has pitched like he is elderly over the last few seasons. 4.97 ERA, now coming off of a few relatively okay starts. 3 runs or fewer allowed in each of his last 4, but in 2 of those starts came against the Colorado Rockies and the Pittsburgh Pirates to be able to help him out. 5.22 fielding dependent. He's only getting about 7 strikeouts himself and is allowing nearly 2 home runs per 9 innings, but here's a big reason why I'm willing to lay the Atlanta Braves on the run line. This Washington Nationals bullpen stinks. They entered into yesterday with a 7.08 bullpen ERA. They've got 2 guys in the bullpen that are able to give you a sub-4 ERA. That would be Mr. Jackson Rutledge along Kyle Finnegan. Outside of that, it's been a whole big giant pile of poop. Eduardo Salazar has been awful. Lucas Sims has been absolutely awful. You cannot trust in these guys. They've been trying to mix and match, and it just has not worked out. Now, what has been working out for them, James Wood being able to provide some good wood, as he's done a nice job being able to give this team 10 plus home runs. He's moved the line, give you about a 370 on base, and then you've got a few other guys who are doing a good job of being able to get on, like you've had Nathaniel Lowe give you 7 home runs, about a 315 on base. You'd like to see that be a little bit higher. Keeper Ruiz lacks power, but he's sitting at 300 for the team, and CJ Abrams sitting at 300 as well, but Josh Bell has been a miserable disaster. 5 home runs with a 226 on base. Dylan Cruz is having a tough time being able to find a way to get on base. Whenever Alex Call is out there, he's been solid, but Jacob Young has also been a little bit rough, but that's it. When you take a look at the flip side for the Atlanta Braves, it does feel like things are starting to get sorted out with regards to that lineup, as well as you've had 8 plus home runs this season out of Austin Riley. Even though Marcell Ozuna is not hitting for the world's greatest amount of power, he's still been able to do a nice job of being able to give you some good on base with north of a 400 on base. Additionally, you've been able to get much more recently out of some of the guys that were struggling towards the beginning part of the season, like Matt Olson is up to 7 home runs. And he's just at 225, but still giving you 350 on base. Do need to get more out of Ozzy Albies, Michael Harris. These 2 guys have a combined 8 home runs, and both are hitting for less than 265 on base. But like so, Drake Baldwin, Eli White at the bottom of the fold have been solid. And for the Atlanta Braves, this is an above average bullpen, not really a whole heck of a lot more than above average, but Desmond Hernandez has been very good in the bullpen this season. He and Dylan Lee, sub 225 ERAs. Pierce Johnson has figured things out as well. And even though Rafael Iglesias has given up some runs this year, still one of the nastier closers that you're going to find in all of baseball. So I do think that the Braves do a nice job of being able to get to Mitchell Parker in this spot. I did set my total at a 9.2, so I'm going to be taking a look at this total over, and I'm going to be willing to lay the run line of the Atlanta Braves. 909, 910 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs play host the Miami Marlins, as Ryan Weathers is on the bump for Miami, and Jameson Taillon is on the bump for the Cubs. Currently, no total is up on this game because it is a Wrigley Field game, but for the Cubs, find them between -205 to -215 favorites. Between +180 and +190 is that number on the Miami Marlins, and with no total, that means no run lines, but I'd be willing to go up to a -114 on that run line of the Cubs. I'd be very, very surprised if you're laying more than a -110, and I did set my total at an 8.2, 8 or less, looking at the over 8.5 or higher, the under. Right now, it is looking like the wind is going to be a little bit more directional at about 6 or so miles per hour, so pretty much a stalemate for these pitchers. It's really not going to hurt them. It's really not going to help them out too much, and this has been a Chicago Cubs team that has done a really nice job of being able to put bat to ball, currently number 1 in the National League with regards to runs per game, as Kyle Tucker has been able to give you 10 home runs. He has been absolutely sensational for this team, but you've also got Pete Armstrong and C.A. Suzuki give you 10 bombs as well, and with Pete Armstrong hitting about a 260, that's been massive for this team. You've had Ian Happ do a solid job of moving the line as well at the top, 365 on base. Michael Busch has been able to give you 350 on base. Carson Kelly, I don't know where this is coming from, but a 443 on base and 8 home runs at his first 76 at-bats of the season has been wild. So, it really is 1 through 9 for the team. Nico Horner doing a good job moving the line as well. Now, for the Cubs, it's been a little bit suspect in terms of bullpen, but you can say the exact same for the Miami Marlins. Marlins 5.05 bullpen ERA. You've had Anthony Bender be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jesus Sunoco is giving you a few okay innings, but Lake Bakar is throwing some games into the lake. Thus far, you've got nothing out of George Soriano. Ronnie Enriquez is actually a relatively okay long guy, but that said, they are going to need to figure that thing out in the bullpen because it has not been great. And for Ryan Weathers, he was actually really good for the Miami Marlins last season, was able to come into his own after he was a little bit disappointing to begin his career. 363 ERA, 411 fielding independent a season ago, and was really seeing a nice uptick with regards to his swing and miss stuff. Starts out the year on the injured list, so he had to figure some things out. He made 3 minor league rehab starts, and it looked good in the minor league rehab starts, but you can't think that he's going to be going too long, and that means that you have to suffer through this bullpen. Meanwhile, for Jameson Taillon, it's been a, shall we say, up and down season for him thus far. 453 ERA, closer to a 5 fielding independent. He's been giving you only about 2 walks per 9 innings, 7.5 strikeouts per 9, but the big issue has been the deep ball. He has given up 2 home runs per 9 innings. He has allowed 10 bombs in 43 2/3 innings, but has allowed 1 or 2 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. Just got tagged for 4 home runs in that start against the New York Mets. I feel like that was a little bit of an outlier, and now he gets to go up against a Miami Marlins lineup that, let's call it what it is, they are not necessarily the New York Mets with regards to that lineup, as well as for the Miami Marlins. You've had Kyle Stowers be able to give you north of a 350 on base. He's been able to do a nice job supplying 7+ home runs this season. Matt Mervis has been able to give you 7 home runs as well, but Mervis is hitting right around about a 200. That's been a bit of an issue, and you've got pretty much outside of that, a whole bunch of guys are playing station-to-station baseball. Augustin Ramirez, 4 home runs at his small sample size with the Miami Marlins has actually been rather impressive. Xavier Edwards is able to give you about a 260 or so average. Connor Norby, when he's been out there, has been rock solid, but he's a guy that has been a little bit, shall we say, hit or miss in terms of whether or not he's going to be in the lineup. Otto Lopez has been disappointing, though. Dave Myers hitting a 335. So I do think that this is a good spot for the Chicago Cubs to be able to get to Weathers, who I think he'll give you a few good innings, but then give way to a bullpen that has been very shaky. So at a minus 114 or better, looking at the Cubs on the run line, would need at least plus 206 to take a shot on Miami on the money line. Then somebody told to wear an 8 or less. I'm in on the over 8.5 or higher. The under 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are on the road. They're facing off against the Seattle Mariners. As going for the M's, you've got Luis Castillo, and Will Warren goes for the New York Yankees. And with the Yankees, you're going to be finding them between minus 110 to a minus 115, and between even money to minus 105 is that number on Seattle, to 8 being the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and made the Mariners minus 144 favorites, so I do like them on the money line. With Will Warren, I just simply still don't trust this guy. He's posted up a 4.75 ERA. Fielding independence is a little bit better than that because he has been able to get north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also issuing 4 walks per 9 innings as well. Just feels like he gets tagged up for a lot of not necessarily home runs, as he's only given up about a home run per 9 innings thus far this season. Last year, he was really giving up the bombs, but he's given up a lot of doubles, and you've got a Seattle Mariners team that has been absolutely awesome with regards to their lineup thus far this season. Now, I recognize that the New York Yankees are the number 1 team in all of baseball in terms of their offense, averaging 6 runs per game entering into Tuesday, with Aaron Judge hitting above a 400, and all that he's been able to do has been absolutely insane. But that said, you've got a Seattle Mariners team with big jumper Cal Raleigh being able to supply 12+ home runs this season. Ode Polanco has been hitting north of 350 as well. Dale Moore has been able to give you 7+ home runs. He's doing a very solid job of being able to move the line, and for Seattle, it's all about just being able to get Julio Rodriguez to give you a little bit more as well, and it feels like he's starting to turn that corner just a skoge, so that's been able to help them out as well. You've had J.P. Crawford be able to give you a 385 on base, so it's really been 1 through 9 starting to supply for the Seattle Mariners, and obviously you've gotten that with the New York Yankees, with also having Trent Grisham now give you a double-figure amount of homers this year. He was miserable over the last few years, and now all of a sudden he's been able to rise up. Now, obviously you've got a few injuries that are happening with this Yankees team. Jazz Chisholm being on the injured list, what we saw a few nights ago at home plate, that was not great for the New York Yankees with Oswaldo Cabrera going down, but Ben Rice, 9 home runs. He's been able to give you a 360 on base. Paul Goldschmidt is not really hitting for a lot of homers. The home run power is starting to pick up just a little bit for him, but nearly a 400 on base. Anthony Volpe has been hit or miss. Cody Bellinger hasn't given you a ton, but I mean, this is a Yankees lineup that is very formidable and fearsome, and they go up against a guy in Luis Castillo who's seen a big drop-off with regards to strikeout stuff this year, down to about 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's keeping the ball in the yard. He's given up about a home run per 9 innings, a skoge bit higher / lower than that, and in his career in Seattle, 2.87 ERA when he's pitching at T-Mobile Park. So he's been good there, but that said, I do think that the Yankees get to him a little bit, but this is also Yankees bullpen that, outside of Luke Weaver, it's been a little bit hit or miss for them as well, as Devin Williams has been just a complete and utter disaster. Let's call it what it is. He's posting up an ERA that's well above a 6 thus far this season. You've been able to get some good innings of Yuri De Los Santos, and Fernando Cruz has been relatively okay, but I just don't trust him. Mark Leiter Jr., Tim Hill has been going a little bit downhill as well, and then on the flip side for the Seattle Mariners, Gabe Spire has been able to do a relatively solid job in that bullpen. I do believe that Andres Munoz is one of the better closers you're going to find in all of baseball. Now, Edward Bizardo has been, well, very bizarre in the way that he pitches. He's posting up north of 4 ERA, and Trent Thornton, though he wasn't doing great, him being on the injured list, that does make things a little bit shaky there. I do certainly think that the Yankees are going to be able to get to Luis Castillo for some runs, but at the same time, I do think that the Mariners, they do get to Will Warren, and I do think that Mariners lineup that has been so good in a, shall we say, pitcher-friendly ballpark, they continue to slug. Semi-total at 8.1, so here at the 8, I like the over, and I do like the Seattle Mariners on the money line. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins hit the road. They're facing off against the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kramer is on the bump for Baltimore, and Bailey Ober is on the bump for Minnesota. This was the expected game, and then we did have ourselves a little bit of a rainout, so we've got a double dip going on, and when this was taken off the board between Simeon Woods Richardson and Cade Povich, you were seeing the Baltimore Orioles as a minus 122 to a minus 125 favorite, right around about plus 105, plus 112 is that number on Minnesota with a total of 9, and I have to think that these are going to be the two pitching matchups that we do get on this day. Now, if you do see a little bit of reversal of starters, by the way, in terms of Simeon Woods Richardson to Bailey Ober, I would set Ober as about 15 cents better than Simeon Woods Richardson, and for Dean Kramer, he's pretty much in line with Cade Povich. It's pretty much the same there. Either way, you're going to be able to get the same results, and I plan on betting the Minnesota Twins in both of these games. We'll look at Ober versus Kramer first, since that was the expected matchup, and this is a pick'em game with a total between 8.5 and 9 on the 8.5, over minus 125, under is plus 105, and on the 9, under is minus 120, and the over is even, and with Minnesota, I did set them at a minus 115 on the money line. Bailey Ober has been very good recently. He had that first start of the season where he just got lit up like a Christmas tree. I don't know what it is with him and the first start of the season, but he just always seems to get off to a little bit of a shaky start there. But that said, he has allowed approximately 1 run in each out of his last 4 starts. In terms of earned runs, he had 1 unearned run given up against Baltimore, ironically enough, in his last start as well. But swing and miss stuff is back up, 6+ bunch-outs in 3 of his last 4 starts. Overall, only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's doing the best job that he has in quite some time of keeping the ball in the yard as well. Has allowed just 5 home runs in 43 and 2/3 innings that I just don't trust in Dean Kramer whatsoever. For Kramer, he's posting up an ERA of a 5.24. That fielding dependence right around about 4.90, only getting 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing a home run and a half per 9, and for the Minnesota Twins, this has been a pretty rock-solid lineup here over the last few weeks. Took them a little bit of time to get going, and you still need Carlos Correa to get going. He has been a big, giant waste of money this season, and Royce Lewis coming off the injured list should be able to help them out. Hasn't provided much in his first 6 games of the season, but I do think that production is coming sooner rather than later. Brooks Lee, who started out the year a little bit banged up, has been able to do an okay job of being able to move the line. It's really been about Byron Buxton and his power of 9 home runs as far this season for a lineup that only has 2 guys that are giving you north of 4 bombs. The other guy, Trevor Lawrence, is up to 6 home runs. He's providing about 320 on base, and Buxton hitting about 265. And you've got quite a few of these guys. The currently injured Matt Wallner, Ty France, along with Lee, who I mentioned before, lying between about a 252 to a 265. Ryan Jeffers has been pretty solid at moving the line as well. And for the Baltimore Orioles, if you look at the raw offensive numbers in terms of runs per game, this is an above average offense, but there does seem to be some shakiness with them as well. As Ryan O'Hearn, in my opinion, has been their best hitter this season. 7 home runs with a 395 on base. Cedric Mullins, he's providing 7 home runs, but after he was doing a great job of moving the line to start out the season, he's back down to hitting about a 230, and I've had Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rushman, both not necessarily give you what you're expecting. Mountcastle, 2 home runs with a 263 on base. Adley Rushman is hitting a 203 with 4 bombs. You just need more out of those guys. They're starting to now get Tyler O'Neill off the injured list, but to begin the season, he's been shaky. Ramon Urias has been moved line with about a 350 on base, but they're still feeling the effect of not having Jordan Westberg out there, though Gunnar Henderson isn't hitting for a ton of power. He's actually done a really good job of coming along as well, but for the Orioles, you also have to be, shall we say, feeling bad about this bullpen in both of these games. games, as right now they've got a 5.05 bullpen ERA that is in the bottom 6 in all of baseball. This despite the fact that Ynier Cano, Felix Bautista is one of the best 1-2 punches that you're going to find in all of baseball. Both guys have a sub-275 ERA, but the former Phillies, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, both supplying north of a 4.25 ERA. Matt Bowman has been awful in that bullpen. You've had really nothing out of Ciano Perez, who's giving you a 9 ERA as well. How he hasn't been demoted to the minor leagues at this point, I have absolutely no idea. So I'm going to be looking at, in both of these scenarios, the Minnesota Twins in game number 1. I'd be willing to go up to a -115 on Bailey over if we do get heat against Ian Kramer. And then with regards to that total, I'm in on the over. I set my total at a 9. And assuming that we do get the matchup we were supposed to get yesterday between Cade Povich along Simeon Woods Richardson, I set the Twins at a -118, and you were finding them at a plus price. I'd be willing to go in on them on the money line. Woods Richardson throughout his career, league average pitcher, about a 4 ERA, gives you about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's up to closer to about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this year. He'll give up about 3 walks per 9, but Cade Povich, he just has not been great this far this season, to say the least. Last year, at the very least, you could say that his home starts were relatively okay, and then he just completely pooped the bed on the road. But for Povich, 5.55 ERA, 5.04 fielding dependent, about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, while giving up 1.8 bombs per 9. So, assuming that we do get this matchup once again, that would be another total where at a 9 or less, I like the over and the Twins on the money line, as I did set Woods Richardson against Povich at a -118. And if you would match him up against, say, Dean Kramer, I still would have the Twins as the favorite in that spot as well. 9.15, 9.16 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox hit the road to face off against the Detroit Tigers, as Tariq Skubal is on the bump for the Tigers and Hunter Dobbins is on the bump for Boston. Boston does find themselves anywhere between +180 to +185 underdogs, in between -$2, -218. That number on Detroit. 7 to 7.5 is the total on the 7. The over is between -115 to a -120. Under is between even a -105 on the 7.5. Under is between -125 to a -130. That over is between +105 to a +110. And I do like the Detroit Tigers in this ordeal, as I did set them at a favorite of -193 on the money line. If you're looking at the run line, I was seeing between even money and +105. And as long as I'm able to get any sort of essentially a plus price here, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Detroit Tigers on the run line, as Tariq Skubal has been absolutely tremendous, giving up 4 runs over the course of his last 5 starts. Now, I do think that there might be a little bit of regression here, because he is facing off against a Red Sox team that is in the top 10 with regards to runs per game. Alex Bregman has given this team 8+ home runs. He's been able to give you north of 300 average, and typically he's a little bit of a slow starter, so he has come out very fired up for Boston. And Wilder Abreu, under the radar, has been one of the better stories in all baseball thus far this season. 11 home runs going into yesterday, 377 on base, and Rafael Devers, apparently he doesn't want to play the field, but he's doing a great job at the plate. He's been able to give you a 400 on base, so he's been able to do a tremendous job on that front. Jaron Duran, he has been still a little bit shaky this year, but you have to feel like he's going to be able to find it a tad bit more. Cedane Rafaela has been hitting for a little bit more average recently, so I do think that there's a little bit of regression with Skubal, but still, Skubal is giving you a sub-225 ERA, sub-225 fielding dependent, 11.3 strikeouts to 0.9 walks per 9 innings. And then you've got bullpen madness, as they did have to utilize quite a few bullpen pieces yesterday. The Tigers did, because they had Kadir Montero pretty much as a bulk guy, but you're able to just mix and match with a team that says he also ranked number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA in the big leagues since the All-Star break last season, with having Brant Herter be a multiple inning guy that is able to do a nice job for this team. Tyler Holden is posting like a 3 ERA, and he's one of the worst pieces in the bullpen at this point, because you've got these guys like Brendan Enifee, Tommy Canley, Will Vest. We're also playing a sub-225 ERA. And then for the Detroit Tigers, all of a sudden this team is in the top 3 in the American League in darn near every offensive category, with Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson combining for 19 home runs this year, with Torkelson not aiming for a ton of average, but 337 on base. Trey Sweeney's been able to give you a 340 on base, not necessarily a big-time power hitter, but Kerry Carpenter, 9 bombs, hitting at 285. Javi Baez is hitting above 300. Gleyber Torres entered into yesterday hitting above a 300. These guys are all coming up big. Cole Keith, you could still use a little bit more out of him, but like what I'm seeing on that front. And for Hunter Dobbins, he in this first few starts as a Boston Red Sox, 4 starts in general, he's been able to do a nice job. His fielding independent is in the mid-3s, right around about a 335 ERA, is at a 278. I do think that there's going to be a bit of regression here. He's getting 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. At the minor league level, was always good at suppressing hard contact, but not as a guy that's going to be blowing you away or anything like that. So I do think that the Tigers get to him, and I think that both of these offenses give you a little bit more than expected here. Set my total at 7.6, so I do like the over, and the Detroit Tigers at plus money on the run line. 917, 918 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays are going to be playing host to the Tampa Bay Rays as Ryan Pepiot is on the bump for the Rays, and Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for Toronto. And the Blue Jays, who find themselves anywhere between minus 138 to minus 142 favorites, and between plus 120 to plus 128. That number on Tampa Bay, it is a total over and under, both at minus 110. And for the Blue Jays, set them at a minus 138 on the money line. Right now, we're seeing approximately minus 138. That's a max I'd be willing to lay. When you get more of the dime line, should probably be able to get closer to minus 135. So, going to be looking at the Jays here for Chris Bassett. It's been a little bit more wobbly after the first 4 or 5 starts of the season was absolutely incredible for him. That said, I still like what he's been able to supply for this team. He's giving you a 3.35 ERA, and his strikeouts per 9 rate back up to about 9.5 punch-outs per 9. He's allowing just 1.6 walks per 9, so he's got a 3.35 ERA, 3.33 fielding independent. He's doing a pretty solid job on that front. Again, it's allowed 3+ runs in each of his last 4 starts, but I think that this is a bit of a get-right spot against the Tampa Bay Rays team that does have Jonathan Miranda, who's giving you about a 400 on base, 5+ home runs. Junior Caminero has been able to slug out 8 home runs as well, but despite having those two guys be pretty rock solid, you still have Taylor Walls, who's sitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. Brandon Lau is able to give you a little bit of power, but he doesn't hit for a lot of average. This is a Rays team that, when they've been away from home, they're averaging about 3.6 runs per contest, and overall this season, they're 25th in the league in terms of runs per game. Having Jake Magnum on the injured list has been hurting them quite a bit, so it's a Tampa Bay Rays lineup that I'm feeling pretty lukewarm about. Christopher Morel has given you a whole heck of a lot more than he did a season ago, but he's starting to regress a little bit as well. Yennier Diaz has been a bit all over the place. Now you can bank on this with the Tampa Bay Rays that their bullpen is going to be firing all cylinders. This is once again a top 8 team with regards to bullpen area. So many guys out there like Hunter Biggie, Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Kerry Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks that have all been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. So after like that, they've been dealing with the injury to Kevin Kelly for pretty much the entirety of the season, but still they've been able to mix and match with that regard. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, always have to have a little bit of question mark with Ryan Pepiot, who I thought last year was really starting to come into his own, but it has been, shall we say, a shaky season for him thus far, as he's right now supplying the team with a 3.86 ERA. Saw some pretty good, shall we say, swing and miss stuff, about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it's starting to come back to him. He's been getting only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I think it's going to rebound. His swing and miss stuff the last few starts has been a little bit down, but he's also won against the Yankees twice, the Padres, and the Phillies in those last 4 starts, and in those 4 starts gave up 3 runs or fewer in every one of them. So have to be doing something right to be able to hold them down. He's been giving up about 3 walks per 9 innings, but I do think that for the Blue Jays, they're going to do a nice job of being able to play station-to-station baseball against them. The Blue Jays have just not necessarily been able to have that home run power of Vlad Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander being down with that regard, and Santander is not even getting on base at this point. He's been hitting in that neighborhood about a 200 all season long, not really giving you a lot in terms of on base. 5 home runs, actually, sadly, leads the team along George Springer in his 5 home runs, but for Springer, 4 on base, he's been solid in. Though Vlad Guerrero Jr. is stuck on 4 bombs, he's been able to give you about a 380 on base. Bo Bichette is hitting at 280. Ernie Clement has been solid at moving the line when he's been out there, and you have guys in the bottom of the fold in Miles Straw, who's been finding it a little bit more this year, hitting about a 285. Now you need to get a little bit more on some of these guys like a Will Wagner, who's been up and down all season long, and Essen Barger. These guys that they've been mixing and matching in like the 7 through 9 spots have been a little bit rough, and then you have Alejandro Kirk, who doesn't draw a lot of walks. He's been able to get on base, so Andres Jimenez has been hitting just a 200 as well. So I do think that this is a very fascinating game in terms of the offensive perspective, especially with the Blue Jays being right around about a league average bullpen. You've got a few pieces that I like. Jeff Hoffman has been able to give this team a little bit of something. We were seeing him regress a little bit. He and Chad Green hovering right around about a 3.6 to a 3.8 with regards to ERA, and Yimi Garcia has been a little bit rough as well, but they have found Mason Fluharty, who's actually been really good. A sub 2 ERA. Brandon Little, when he's been out there, he's been able to come up big for the team as well. So interesting set of circumstances. At a minus 138 or better, I'm going to be willing to ride with the Blue Jays on the money line. And then I did some, I told that at 8.2. Both Pepiot and Bassett, I think, give up a few runs here, so going to be willing to take a shot on that total over as well. 919, 920 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals are going to be on the road facing off against the Houston Astros. As for the Kansas City Royals, it is Michael Lorenzen who gets the start for them, and it is going to be Mr. Colton Gordon making his MLB debut for the Astros. Right now, the only initial opener I'm seeing is at FanDuel, because Gordon was a little bit of a question mark, but right now at FanDuel, that opener is the Astros minus 124, plus 106 on the Royals, and total is 8.5, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. If you get that 8.5 total, I'm going to be in on the over. I set my total at an 8.8, and if we can get closer to about a plus 110, plus 112 on the Royals, which I think we should when it's all said and done, I'd be willing to take a shot on their money line. As for the Royals, it has been royally bad with regards to our offense, bottom 6 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game, as These guys just have not been able to hit the deep ball. Now, you still have a guy, Bobby Witt Jr., who's able to hit for north of 300, 375 on base, but those power numbers have been down. Felipe Escotino is up to 6 home runs this season, but it's a case where he's not hitting for a lot of average. And Salvador Perez has just fallen off the face of planet Earth. Right now, is stuck on either 2 or 3 home runs. He's been hitting for less than a 300 on base, not really giving you a lot in terms of average as well. Jonathan India has been coming over from the Reds, only able to give you 1 home run in his first 148 at-bats of the season. Now, Miguel Garcia has been able to give you a 360 on base. He's been solid, and Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, they're starting to give you a little bit more average, but certainly the power numbers have not been there for the Royals. And what's been stunning about the Royals, bullpen has been really good for the team. A top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got a really nice 8th and 9th inning duo in Lucas Erceg along Carlos Estevez, but then John Schreiber is able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Steven Cruz, I think, is doing for a bit of regression, but he and Daniel Lynch, sub-150 ERAs, so these guys have really done a nice job of being able to mix and match. And when it comes to Michael Lorenzen, guy that I think is doing for a little bit of regression, but I still have a little bit more faith in him in this start rather than a guy in Colton Gordon, who he's been good at the AAA level this season for the Sugar Land Space Cowboys. He's giving you 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 255 ERA in the PCL. Having a 255 ERA is actually really, really good. And if you look at his numbers last season, was doing a good job with regards to swing miss stuff. Has always had a little bit of suspectness with regards to walks. He's been able to tame that down quite a bit this season, so you do like to be able to see that. And I think that in his first start, he's not going to be bad or anything like that, but the nerves, the jitters, they're always there for these guys, and I personally love fading these guys in their first start. Meanwhile, for Michael Lorenzen, 357 ERA, 463 fielding independence, second straight year in which he's got a fielding independent and an ERA that's completely out of whack. He's given up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. He's been only able to give you about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is actually a little bit up for him, but for the Houston Astros, I don't know if they're going to be able to fully take advantage because the Astros lineup just looks a little bit washed right now. You've got a lot of guys in that lineup that are hovering between 4 and 5 home runs. Jeremy Pena, Yanier Diaz, Jose Altuve, Christian Walker, Isaac Paredes, and Paredes is giving you a 380 on base. Pena about a 350 on base, but Jose Altuve hitting a 265. He hasn't been quite the same guy that we all know and love. Christian Walker is starting to work his way back up, but less than a 300 on base. Cam Smith has shown some struggles as a rookie. Jordan Alvarez is on the injured list. Victor Carantini hasn't been able to see consistent at-bats, which I don't understand why, because he's actually been pretty rock solid. But once again, with the Astros, very good in terms of their bullpen. As we got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, both gave you a sub-275 ERA. Josh Hader has looked like the Josh Hader that we all know and love. And Taylor Scott, after a very rough start to the season, he's been able to give you some good innings recently as well. Caleb Ward is holding down the fort for the team, so it's a very interesting scenario. I would need at least plus 112 to take a shot on the Royals, but we'll be willing to there. And with seeing that initial opener at an 8.5, I'd be looking at the over sub by total at an 8.8. 921, 922 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians as Kevin Williams is on the bump for the Guards, and it's going to be Logan Henderson who's on the bump for the Milwaukee Brewers. Most places had this game off the board just because with Henderson, he was a little bit of a surprise starter. Right now, the initial FanDuel opener I was seeing was with the Guardians at a minus 154, plus 130 on the Brewers with a total of 8.5, over minus 105, under minus 115. I do not think that they were prioritizing Henderson because I was seeing before this they were thinking it would be Elvin Rodriguez, and Elvin Rodriguez is not good, but if you get that number, I would be more than willing to take the Brewers at a plus 130, plus 114 or higher. I'm going to be looking there as Henderson has already made one start in his MLB career for the Brewers, and it was a rock solid start. He was able to go out there for 6 innings, allow 1 run, punch out 9, and he has been very good with the Nashville Sounds as far this season. As a matter of fact, just at the minor league level in general, Henderson has been very rock solid. Last season with the Sounds, he was a little bit more shaky with them, but still showed good swing and miss stuff at the minor league level in 2024 at 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. This year, he has made 6 starts at the minor league level, 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing less than a home run per 9. This guy's really good wipeout stuff, and he gets to face off against the Cleveland Guardians lineup that is very top heavy. The guys at the bottom of the lineup just have not been able to supply for you, whether that be Bo Naylor or Austin Hedges at the catcher spot, Brian Rocchio, Nolan Jones, John Kensey Noel. I have a lot of guys sitting below a 200 for the team. And Kyle Manzardo, while he's giving you 9 home runs at a 315 on base, hitting for just a 220 himself now at the top of the lineup. Jose Ramirez is starting to find it once again, up to 6 home runs, 355 on base. Stephen Kwan at the leadoff spot, a 390 on base as he, Carlos Santana, Gabriel Urias, all with 4 home runs. And Urias doing a solid job getting on, but in fact, Carlos Santana hit just a 225, and for the Cleveland Guardians, this is just not the same bullpen that it was a season ago as they picked up Paul Sewald, which was a move that I didn't necessarily love, and he's currently on the injured list, and Emmanuel Clase, he has been a disaster this year. 392 bullpen ERA for the Cleveland Guardians entering into Tuesday. That is a below league average mark, as a matter of fact, and this despite the fact that you've got Hunter Gaddis be really good in that bullpen. Colby Allard has actually been very good in long relief thus far this season. Tim Aaron, Kate Smith, all those guys I mentioned, they've all been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but Jacob Junis and Joey Cantillo have had their issues as well. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, they were number one in terms of the National League, in terms of bullpen ERA. They just haven't been the same this year, despite the fact that they bring back darn near everyone from a season ago, as Yo Payams, Elvis Piguero, who's been with injury all season long, Jared Koenig, all these guys, they are back. Trevor McGill, and it's actually been Abner Uribe, who's been the best guy in that bullpen, along with Nick Mears. Nick Mears, a sub 1 ERA, and Uribe who's able to give you multiple innings, a sub 150 ERA, but that said, for the Milwaukee Brewers, have a lot of guys that are doing a solid job of just finding a way on base. Rhys Hoskins has not been able to give you a bunch of power this year, but he's able to give you about a 385 on base. Sal Frelick has been able to do a nice job, move the line, along with Bryce Terang. Both of these guys give you a north of a 365 on base, and Terang, one of the better base stealers they're going to find in all baseball. Jackson Chourio has been their top home run hitter, along with Christian Yelich, 7 bombs apiece, but Yelich entered into yesterday hitting for just a 211, but his on-base percentage still better than Jackson Chourio. Chourio hitting at 260, but 4 walks and 177 at-bats. That's just not cutting it right now. And then when it comes to those guys in the, shall we say, middle infield, like Joey Ortiz, Oliver Dunn, Vinny Capra, they just have not been able to give you a ton at the bottom of the fold. Caleb Duran has been, shall we say, very testy as well. So it leads to a very interesting circumstance, especially with a guy in Gavin Williams, who I felt like he just got the short end of the stick last season. If you looked at his ERA versus fielding dependent, he was by no means like a Cy Young candidate or anything like that, but he just deserves so much better than the ERA that he posted up last year. He had a ERA of a 4.86 compared to a fielding independent of 3.67, and this year 4.65 fielding independent, 4.38 ERA. He has been able to get about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 5.5 walks per 9 innings, 1.5 bombs per 9. So I do think that the Brewers are going to do a solid job of being able to get on base against him with the Brewers if I'm able to get a plus 115 or higher. Looking at the money line, and I did set my total at 8.4 because I do think that with Henderson, he's going to be able to supply a good start. So if you get an 8.5, going to be looking at that total under 923, 924 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox, they're going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Nick Lodolo getting the start for them. And Davis Martin is on the bump for the White Sox. 9 is the total. Unders minus 120, the over is even, and plus 185 to plus 190 is that number on the Southsiders. Between minus 208 to minus 225 is that number on Cincinnati. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Reds, right now I'm seeing that initial run line price at a minus 110, and I'd be willing to go in on it. I'm willing to go up to a minus 124 with regards to that Reds run line. As for Davis Martin, not really getting a lot of swings and misses right now. He was looking very good as a rookie a few seasons ago. Last year, he came back up to the big league level, and while he was getting more strikeouts, his command went way down, and now his command is back up, but now he's not getting the same amount of swing and miss that he did a season ago as well. 5.9 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 401 ERA, 438 fielding independent. He's been okay over the course of the season here, but he just hasn't been great. It's just sort of neither here nor there, but when you're backed up by the bullpen that you are, and they had to throw out there Brady Eisert as an opener yesterday, and we've seen a lot of openers with the Chicago White Sox, so you always want to be noting that regardless of who is the slated starter, it feels like they are very willing to go with an opener on any sort of game. But that said, I'm not quite sure why, because it hasn't really helped them out for one, and two, this is a Chicago White Sox team that is rocking a 4.62 bullpen ERA. Not a lot of trustworthy guys out there. They tried out the Mike Clevenger experiment in the bullpen. That did not work. He's currently at the minor league level, and you just have not had a lot of stability with the likes of Cam Boucher, Penn Murphy, guys that are supposed to be veterans that are just not coming through for this team. You've actually been able to have Jordan Leisure be relatively okay in this bullpen, but still, it's a case where your best guy has been Mike Facile. Has actually been a long guy, and for the Chicago White Sox, bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They just have not been able to hit away from them all season long. You got a trio of guys, Luis Rivera, Andrew Benintendi, Andrew Vaughn, who've all been able to give you 5 home runs this season, but Benintendi has just landed on the injured list. Vaughn has been miserable, and Robert, both of these guys, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 is rough. When he's been out there, Nick Batone has been pretty miserable as he's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. They had to send him down to the minor leagues, and I mean, the guys that they called up, not necessarily too great. Timothy Elko is someone that I think has a little bit of upside, so there's that aspect of things. And Miguel Vargas has been able to give you 300 on base. Lennon Sosa has given you a little bit in terms of batting average, but I mean, it's just a rough collection of guys right now. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, they're actually averaging way more runs per game away from them rather than at home. Those numbers got very much warped by the fact that they had that 24-run game against the Baltimore Orioles, but Ellie De La Cruz has been able to supply the team with 6 home runs. He's giving you north of a 320 on base. You've been able to get a lot of production out of Gavin Lux, who's been able to give you about a 375 on base. Not give you a ton in terms of power. And the Reds, they aren't necessarily a power hitting team. Matt McClain, 5 home runs, but hitting a $165. But I do think that they're going to be able to have quite a few guys that are going to be able to find it here. Navali Marte going on the injury list hurt them, but Santiago Espino, Jose Trevino, these guys hitting above a 300 have been pretty rock solid for the team as well. They've been some nice surprises as well, and for Austin Hayes, him being on the injury list, that does hurt the team a little bit, and I do like what you're seeing at the Cincinnati Reds bullpen as well, as you've got quite a few guys that when it's all said and done, they should be able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA this season, as Emilio Pagan, this guy that I still feel a little bit suspect about, and Graham Ashcraft has been a little bit shaky over the last week or so, but he's been a good long guy with a sub 3 ERA. You've had Brent Suter be able to give you some good innings, Taylor Rogers, Tony Santillan, these guys are rock solid, and Scott Barlow, his ERA is a little bit high right now, but I think that should be suppressed as the season goes along as well. For Nick Lodolo, not getting the same amount of swings and misses that he did a few seasons ago, but that said, he's still been able to do a nice job of keeping the things out in front of him, and for what he's lost in terms of being able to get strikeouts, Nick Lodolo has done a better job with regards to command. Just 1.3 walks per 9 innings, only about 7.2 strikeouts per 9, but 47 in the third innings across his 8 starts, has only allowed 5 home runs, so that's been pretty solid for him, and he's now given up 2 earned runs for fewer in 2 out of his last 3 starts, so do think that you get a solid performance here out of Lodolo. I'm going to lay up to a minus 124 on that Reds run line, and so I told it an 8.7, so at the 9, I like the under. 925, 926 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers play the Colorado Rockies, as Antonio Senzatella is on the bump for the Rockies, and you got Patrick Corbin on the bump for the Rangers, and the Rangers with Patrick Corbin find themselves as minus 230 to minus 245 favorites, plus $2 to plus 210 is that number on the Rockies with a total of 9. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. Never in my life did I think that I would find Patrick Corbin as this size of a favorite, and never in my life did I think that I would actually be willing to back him in this sort of a spot. And if you're looking at that Rangers run line, them laying a run half on the initial openers at minus 118, I'd be willing to go up to a minus 124 with regards to that run line, as you've got a guy in Patrick Corbin who's pitched a little bit better this year. Now, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression coming in for Corbin, as he's been, ironically enough, a different pitcher ever since he was bitten by that venomous creature, which I still think is one of the most funny stories out there in all of baseball. But that said, for our good friend and Mr. Corbin, he's right now posting up a 3.13 ERA, 4.63 fielding dependent, not getting any swings and misses whatsoever, 3.5 walks, 5.7 strikeouts per 9, but I mean, he hasn't really given up the deep ball. He had that one rough first start against the Chicago Cubs, and ever since then, 2 runs or fewer allowed in each of his last 5 starts, and he goes up against a Rockies team that entered into the day on Tuesday averaging 2.2 runs per game away from home, and away from home, they are hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200, like just a skid mark on the underpants of baseball. These guys just cannot hit the ball to save their lives. Hunter Goodman does actually have 5 home runs away from home this season, so he's been able to give you a little bit of power on the road, but the rest of these guys, it's just like, what the heck is going on here? You've got a lot of guys that are hitting a 225 or lower on this team, and that includes their numbers at Coors Field as well. You've got Brenton Doyle, Mickey Moniak, Alan Trejo, Michael DeGlia, Ryan McMahon, all in that fold. McMahon has been able to give you 6 home runs this year, but again, all those home runs are coming at home. Same goes for Jordan Beck as well, so these guys are just not giving you anything at the plate whatsoever. And then for Antonio Senzatella, he's been a human piñata this year. Now, I recognize that Antonio Senzatella actually doesn't do the world's worst job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, but that said, this is a guy, Mr. Antonio Senzatella, who's got a 5.77 ERA. His whip is north of a 1.5 because he is giving up in terms of hits per 9 innings worth of 15. Just absolutely giving it to these guys. Now, he's only giving up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but even for as bad as the Texas Rangers are, they should be able to get a little bit of offense going, as the Rangers have been your best under team in all baseball. They themselves are averaging less than 3.6 runs per contest this season. Wyatt Langford has been solid for them. 7 home runs give you about a 350 or so on base, but you've had Jake Berger, who's been out of the lineup the last few days, along with Jock Peterson, Marcus Semien, only below the Mendoza line of 200. Josh Young, he's been moving the line a little bit, hitting about a 265, and Josh Smith hitting above a 300, getting back Corey Seager after he was injured. He's been able to give you a 300 average, 6 home runs, and about 100 at bats, so I mean, he's been able to do his part as well. And for the Rangers, I'm not going to call the bullpen amazing, but they've been far from terrible. They've been right around about league average thus far this season, as you've got some shakiness with regards to Luke Jackson. I don't know why he's closing out games, because you've got a lot of guys who have been much better than him this season, as you've got Chris Martin, Holby Milner, Robbie Garcia, all being able to give you a sub 2.75 ERA. Sean Armstrong has been a pretty good pickup for them as well, but I do think that the Rangers just take it to this Rockies team that has been all sorts of awful all season long, and I think that Antonio Senzatella continues to give up hits, and I do think that there's a bit of regression coming for Patrick Corbin. So maybe by total 9.2, I like the over, and I like the run line up to a minus 124 on the Rangers, 927, 928 on the card. You've got the LA Angels hitting the road to face off against the San Diego Padres, as Randy Vasquez goes for the Pods, and the Professor Kyle Hendricks is on the bump for the Angels. you've got a total between 8.5 to 8.9. On the 9, the under is minus 120 and the over is even. And on the 8.5, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. With San Diego, they're between minus 173 to minus 185 favorites, between plus 154 to a plus 162 is that number on Los Angeles. And if you're looking to lay a run half here with the San Diego Padres, you're able to get a plus number that I'm going to be willing to take. I'm seeing that at a plus 114. Was willing to take a plus 110 or better for Kyle Hendricks. He's posting up a 5.30 ERA, allowing a 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That should be helped a little bit by the fact that he's pitching in San Diego. San Diego, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all baseball, but it's been a bit rough for him. 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and Kyle Hendricks is always known as a command pitcher. When he doesn't have command, that's when things get really, really bad, as he's given up 3+ runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And for Randy Vasquez, I do think that there's going to be a regression with him as well, because for Randy Vasquez, right now posting up a 3.76 ERA, and he's kept the ball in the yard to his credit. He's given up 3 home runs at 38 1/3 innings, but he's given up 4.2 strikeouts of 5.9 walks per 9 innings. Yeah, that's a little bit less than savory, to say the least, but it's an Angels team that currently they're in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, despite being in the top 5 in terms of home runs per game. And that's all because this is a very all-or-nothing team, and when you're an all-or-nothing team in San Diego where those home runs don't come very easily, that's not necessarily the world's greatest recipe for success. Obviously, Mike Trout is currently on the injured list, but I said you still have had quite a few guys be able to slug out the deep ball. Yes, you've had Taylor Ward along with Logan O'Hoppe give you 9 home runs apiece. O'Hoppe has been able to give you about a 265 average, but Ward is sitting below the Mendoza 9-200. Joe Adell, 5 home runs, but at 230 on base. Jorge Soler has been in and out of the lineup along with Kyron Paris. Both of these guys have 6 home runs. Paris is sitting just above a 200. Soler, about a 305 on base. Nolan Schunal has been able to move line. At Zach Neto has actually been pretty solid as well, but for the Angels, dead last in the American League in terms of bullpen ERA entering into Tuesday as well. You just don't have any sort of reliable options in this bullpen whatsoever. They've been able to get a little bit of production out of Ryan Zephyrian, who's giving you a sub-4 ERA, but Kenley Jansen has been all sorts of suspect. Gary McDaniels, Brock and Rolberg, throw in there as well, Ryan Johnson. All these guys are right now giving you north of a 5.5 ERA. Not a place where you want to be, but as we know, San Diego, once again, it suppresses offense, as you've got a Padres team that hasn't necessarily gotten a ton of power out of Manny Machado. He's only been able to give you 3 home runs, but he's been able to hit for about a 330. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been very complete as a player. 10 home runs, 380 on base, so you'd love to see that. Xander Bogaerts has been very disappointing here with the Padres, but Luis Arias is doing a nice job being able to find a way on base. Jose Iglesias, clearly not the guy that he was with the Mets a season ago, but getting back Jackson Merrill off the injured list, that's going to be able to help him out, as he entered into yesterday with a 467 batting average in a small sample size, so that's been absolutely insane. And for the Padres, this has been one of the better bullpens out there in all of baseball, a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA, and you've got just so many guys that are able to be long guys or give you a sub-3 ERA. Adrian Morejon has seen his jump up to a 350, but you've got the likes of an Alec Jacob who's been able to give you sub-3 ERA. Recognize that he did give up that grand slam on Monday, but you've had Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, both be able to give you a sub-225 ERA. These guys have been rock solid along with Yuki Matsui as well. Robert Suarez is a great closer, and I do think that they do a nice job against this Angels team of keeping them in the yard. Sub-I-total at 8.3, like the under, and I do like the Padres at a plus 110 or better on the run line, and we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers, they do play us the Sacramento A's. I was about to say the Oakland A's, but you do have Mr. Gunnar Hoglund, who's on the bump for the Athletics, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers between minus 254 to minus 270 favorites, plus 220 to plus 230 is that number on the Athletics, and 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. Again, if you're looking to lay a run half in this game, you're going to be laying a minus 134 on the initial opener with the Dodgers. If we can get down to a minus 230, and right now that's a FanDuel number, and they have this at a minus 275, and I think that we should be able to get closer to a minus 125, minus 130. I would be willing to lay that Dodgers run line, as Yamamoto has been very good this season. Now, recognize that after he had a 0.90 ERA going into that series against the Arizona Diamondbacks, they got lit up a little bit there, but still, his swing and miss stuff has been good. He's really not putting guys on cheaply since coming on over from the country of Japan. He's been giving you about 10.5 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. Overall for his career, 260 ERA, 271 fielding independent, giving up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. So I've loved what I've seen out of him. One bad start doesn't change that. And for Hoglund, he's come up to the big league level, and he's been able to hold his own. It's been a very small sample size for him. He's only made 2 starts, but you know what? You'll take 11 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs in those starts. And if you look at what Hoglund was able to do for the Las Vegas Aviators, that would be the AAA affiliate. He had a 1-2 record in the PCL, but in the PCL at 2.43 ERA, very rock solid. Doesn't put guys on cheaply. Has always been a good command pitcher. He's able to give you some solid swing and miss stuff. Not necessarily amazing, but you know what? It gets the job done. Now, I do think that going up against the LA Dodgers is a different ball of wax. So as you've got that guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani, who's able to give you a double-figure amount of homers. He's always giving you right around about a 400 or so on base. And Mookie Betts has been a little bit slow out the gates thus far this season, but you know that he's going to be able to pick it up. Teoscar Hernandez has done a great job with his power as he's supplying the team with 9 home runs, hitting above a 300. Andy Paz has been very underrated, 340 on base. He's giving you a bit of power as well. And then you've had Freddie Freeman give you 9 home runs and 110 at-bats with north of a 400 on base. For the LA Dodgers, the bullpen has been a little bit of a question mark for them because they've got Michael Kopech out of the fold, Bruce Graterol deal with injuries, and now you've got more injuries with Blake Tryon landing on the injured list. But still, you've had Drake Dreyer as a long guy actually be very rock solid with a sub-3 ERA. Ben Casparis has been utilized as a starter already this season, and he's been able to do a nice job holding down the fort as well. Alex Dicey has been a little bit hit or miss along Kirby Yates, but you've been able to get some good innings in the back half from Evan Phillips ever since he came off the injured list. Tanner Scott has been a nice closer for the team as well. And then for the A's, this has been a bottom 10 team in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA, with Mason Miller having some issues over the last week or so. I think that he's going to be able to figure those out, but I also don't think that you're going to be seeing the same level of performance that you've been seeing thus far this season out of the likes of Justin Turner and Tyler Ferguson. Both give you a sub 240 ERA. You've had some big time issues with the likes of a Mitch Spence giving nearly a 5 ERA. TJ McFarland has been not great, and then you have to look to guys like Anel Perdomo, Noah Murdoch and company that just have not gotten the job done. But what has been getting the job done is the A's offense, one of the better ones in all of baseball. Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, between 9 and 10 home runs apiece. Soderstrom has been stuck on 9 home runs for quite a few weeks, but it still gives you a 350 on base. Jacob Wilson, he doesn't draw any walks whatsoever, but he entered into yesterday hitting at 348. That's been rather remarkable. Gio Urshela has been a little bit of a disappointment, but Miguel Andujar is hitting above a 300. Been a little bit of hit or miss for Lawrence Butler. Hasn't been able to get on base recently, but when he does get on base, very much a lethal threat to steal some bags. And though Shane Langolaris doesn't hit for the world's greatest amount of average, he's up to about a 250 this season, 8 home runs out of him. So I do think that you get some offense out of the A's, but again, I like what Hoglund has been able to do for this team, and I think that Yoshinobu Yamamoto, after that rough start a few days ago, he's going to be able to bounce right back. I set my total at 8.1, so looking at the Dodgers at a minus 130 or better on the run line, and the total under, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to our good friend Curtis Rogers of 710 Seattle Sports. You joined me in the previous segment, and if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, maybe it does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm going to be with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.